What actually separates advanced soccer players from competitive level players? Is it talent, athleticism, technical ability, or is it something much deeper? Because when we look at soccer performance, most people focus on what happens during matches. But the reality is, match performance is built through training exposure over time. And in this Strike's applied sports science study, we found that advanced players consistently experience greater high-intensity running demands, muscle load demands, and technical performance outputs, despite completing the same training structure. This study examined advanced and competitive level female soccer players across repeated training sessions. We specifically wanted to determine whether meaningful differences existed in 1. Workload, 2. Positional muscle load, and 3. Technical performance. Importantly, all players completed the same activities, the same training volume, and the same training structure. The activities were even randomly ordered across sessions to reduce order effect. So the question becomes, if the environment was controlled, why did advanced players still produce greater outputs? One of the clearest findings involved high-intensity running demands. Advanced players consistently demonstrated substantially greater high-intensity running exposure across repeated training sessions. For example, in session 1 alone, advanced players covered approximately 965 meters, while competitive players covered approximately 486 meters. Significant differences also remained in session 3. This is important because all players completed the same training structure. The difference was not simply the drill. The difference was the interaction between player level and training response. These findings reinforce an important principle within player development. Training environments shape adaptation. Repeated exposure to high-intensity demands may influence physical capacity, movement efficiency, training tolerance, and future match performance. Over time, accumulated exposure creates adaptation, and that adaptation may separate competition levels. This is why player development cannot simply be viewed as talent identification. It must also be viewed as environmental exposure over time. Positional differences were also highly important. Advanced midfielders consistently demonstrated greater muscle load demands across repeated training sessions compared to competitive level midfielders. This matters because midfielders are tasked with transitioning constantly, maintaining high technical and tactical involvement, and repeated accelerations and decelerations, as well as covering large amounts of space. Over time, repeated positional workload exposure may significantly influence long-term development. Again, same session, structure produced different response. The biggest misconceptions is that player development is assuming that same training session produces the same outcome for every player. But adaptation is highly individual. Differences in competition level, physical capacity, technical proficiency, tactical understanding, and accumulated experience all can influence training response. This is why exposure alone does not guarantee development. The differences were not only physical. Advanced players also demonstrated superior technical attacking performance. Specifically, advanced players scored more goals and completed more dribble actions. This reinforces another critical concept. Development is multidimensional. Physical workload and technical execution are interconnected. Higher level players may not simply perform more work. They may also execute skills more effectively under demanding conditions. At Synergy Athletic Solutions, the Strikes Applied Sports Science framework views a player's development as a system-based process. Performance is not isolated. It emerges through interaction between player, environment, workload, coaching design, and repeated exposure over time. This study highlights an important reality. Advanced players may not simply be more talented. They may be chronically adapted to more demanding developmental environments. For coaches, clubs, and governing bodies, these findings raise critical questions. Are training environments representative enough? Are lower-level players receiving sufficient developmental exposure? Are we preparing players for current competition or future competition? Because if developmental environments differ significantly across levels, then long-term developmental outcomes may differ as well. What separates advanced soccer players may not simply be talent. It may be greater repeated exposure, higher training demands, positional workload differences, and accumulated adaptation over time. Improving player development does not begin with selection alone. It begins with better environments. If you want more Strikes Applied Sports Science research and soccer development content, make sure to subscribe, follow Synergy Athletic Solutions, and explore the latest research blogs and videos. Because the future of player development belongs to the coaches who understand adaptation, environment, and systems thinking.